Maricopa County Branch community membership meeting. Okay. Thank everyone for being here. Most of you, I think, that I see on the call already know that who I am. I'm Karen Hardin, president of the Maricopa County Branch NAACP. Thank you for joining us. I will introduce someone who needs no introduction. Councilwoman Kesha Hodge Washington. And we are so delighted that you have been able to take time from your busy schedule to be with us today. And as part of our community engagement initiatives from the Maricopa County Branch in NAACP, we would like for you to maybe just spend a few minutes letting us know about things that you see are needed in the community. Give us some ideas of what you perceive as priorities, and talk about how you think things will help the community. Maybe if you give us about 15 minutes or so, and then we would open it up to questions for anyone that might want to ask some questions. And thank you again for being with us, all right? And congratulations as well on your election, okay? Right.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Hardin. Thank you, and afternoon to everyone. Hope everybody can hear me okay. I have a slight tickle in my throat, but I'm hopeful that I can be heard pretty clearly. Councilwoman Kesha Hodge Washington here for the city of Phoenix, and I represent District 8, which consists of our Levine area, South Mountain, South Phoenix, downtown, airport area. It's a pretty large area. My priorities for me are increasing our attainable housing options, because I feel like right now we are facing housing prices are not what they used to be. We have more demand than we have supply, which is also leading to increased rental rates. So I'm working on that. My focus is on also boosting our economic development in our area. There's a lot of business coming into the Phoenix area. Not all of them are situated in areas where my residents are, and I would like to give them more opportunities so that we have locations where everyone can live, work, and play. And then lastly, I'm also very focused on helping, and it goes hand in hand with attainable housing. And I want to help work on the city's solution when it comes to dealing with our unsheltered residents, and working on eviction prevention. So those are my top 3 priorities. I'm actually in DC at the moment as part of the Congressional Black Caucus, meeting with our congressional representatives, as well as other members that can help move those 3 areas forward for the city of Phoenix. The thing I would like to spend a few minutes talking about today is, especially for those residents of Phoenix, we have an upcoming election on November 7th. And that is about it's a general obligation bond is what we're asking the voters and the residents of Phoenix to consider. And if I could share my screen, I have a brief presentation I can cover if that's fine.
Yeah, Councilwoman, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, just lost my button. I'm almost there. Okay. Okay. So I trust that everyone can see the screen. As I mentioned, the election is on November 7th. And it's the only thing that you'll generally and that most residents of Phoenix will see will be this bond initiative, as well as if their applicable school board has a bond or override. So real quick, what is the GO bond? A GO bond just allows a municipality like the city to actually go out to investors and borrow money to complete needed capital projects, and then they use the revenue from those projects or from our property taxes to repay the obligation. Since 1957, the city has approved GO bond programs totaling $1.6 billion. The last one was done in 2006 for $878.5 million. GO bond programs require voter approvals, and we can't use funding for anything for costs like salaries or to fund things that are not owned by the city. So anything that is funded by the GO bond represents a project that belongs and is owned by the city. Next, how was the bond amount decided? So the bond election will represent a $500 million investment in our city. And in determining that amount, the city convened the Fiscal Capacity Committee to determine how much we could, what the parameters could be for a bond program that did not result in the increase in the applicable property taxes. We did not want it to be a situation where the residents would have to bear an increased burden. So one of the selling points, one of the great things about this bond initiative is that we can have some significant investment in our community without raising our property taxes. So the fiscal committee reported that the $500 million capacity would meet those goals. And the goal would be going forward, we realized it wouldn't cover all of the capital projects that we would like to see that are in queue, but it would allow us to do this every 5 years and continue to do the projects that our city needed to be done. So what are the projects that I'm talking about? So the General Obligation Bond Committee then created 8 subcommittees in the area of arts and culture, economic development, education, environmental and sustainability, housing, human services and homelessness, neighborhood and city services, parks and recreations, public library, streets and storm drainage for a total of $500 million. I'll go over quickly in terms of the ballot propositions, because it's split into 4 ballot propositions. It's not a 1 vote, but it'll be 4 specific votes. And the 4, under our state statute, we had to lump, we couldn't do the whole $500 million together. We had to lump projects that were closely aligned together. So you'll see 4 initiatives. The first one is enhancing our public safety through fire, police, roadway, and pedestrian infrastructure. This represents a $214 million, if approved by our residents, $214 million initiative. So here are the items that you will see on that. It includes 1 new fire station and the renovation and expansion of 3 additional fire stations. And one of the great things about the expansion of these fire stations is it also will include the community assistance program. For those that are not familiar, the CAP program, or the community assistance program, provides for the response by mental health professional and behavioral health specialists to certain crises versus sending our law enforcement. Many times we know that law enforcement is not the appropriate entity to interact with someone who's having a mental health crisis or a behavioral health crisis. So these positions will be funded these positions will provide for trained mental health professionals to be those active engagements. So I'm very excited to see that happen. We also will be establishing, if approved, we will establish a new replacement precinct in the Maryville. And the goal by doing that and diverting some of our law enforcement and fire away from these types of tasks is that we will increase our response time. The city has grown tremendously, and our response time has also increased, and that's not what you want in a time of a crisis or an emergency. So this will help us get into more acceptable response times. Also in this initiative also includes for street and storm drainage repairs. One of the items you'll see is the Vision Zero implementation. The city of Phoenix, unfortunately, has a high incident of pedestrian and vehicle incidents. And the goal is to be able to implement and make changes to our roadways that will make our roadways more safe for both pedestrians and motorists. So it also will provide some for people who live in Levine and off of the South Mountain area. We experience a large amount of flooding, in part because when it rains, South Mountain does not absorb water, and our infrastructure is not our wastewater and our rainwater infrastructure is not completely vetted for the full amount of homes and development we've seen so far. So this would allow us to remediate those, and it will cut down on the number of homes that we saw flooded the last time we had a serious flood here in Phoenix. It also includes things for like pavement maintenance, supplements, so it would allow us to get through more of our paving of our roadways in a quicker time frame. It also provides for replacement of some of the storm drainages that I talked about earlier. So those are the items that will be covered under the first question. The second question focuses on the improving the quality of life in our Phoenix neighborhoods, and that represents a $108 million investment. And the items that will be covered under those are, as you can see, include some libraries. Will include a library at the Estrella Civic Space, some ADA improvement to city facilities. The Yucca Branch Library will also be expanded. Caesar View Civic Space will get a library, and some historic preservation programs will all be funded. Just about every district will see park improvements, as well as one of the things I think is really interesting about what we're doing here is many times our parks department does not have funds to replace shade, absent a budget request. So this would allow them to be able to make repairs to our parks in a more timely and efficient manner. And that's why we see here, you'll see city-wide funding for parks minor capital projects. So they wouldn't be able to necessarily install a new baseball diamond, but they could go ahead and provide space, replace some ramada as needed without every time having to come to have that be a budget request. So all of our parks will, most of the parks will get splash pads, a pool, some level of renovation as part of this in each district of Phoenix. The third question focuses on creating an efficient, modern Phoenix to live and work. And that's a $114 million investment. And those are broken up into three categories: arts and culture related, economic development, and environmental and sustainability. In the arts and culture world, you'll see things such as it helps to fund the Latino Cultural Center. Valley Youth Theater is going to get a permanent home. The Children's Museum, there's some expansion of that. The Phoenix Center for the Arts, the theater also gets improvements. Theater company will get some ADA accommodations, as well as the Arizona Jewish Historical Society will get a renovation and expansion. We are one of the largest city that does not have a Holocaust museum or any contribution, or any recognition of the Jewish communities lost during that time, and this will help us remedy it. There's also going to be some additional citywide funds for general cultural facilities replacement. Moving on to the economic development education portion, we see Rio Reimagine land acquisition. Many may know about the Rio Reimagine project. This will allow the city to be able to consolidate and create larger areas where we can spur development along the Salt River project. So it's really exciting. The other thing that's really great is it will help provide some capital towards ASU's Health Technology Center. And why that's important is ASU's Health Technology Center will help create and be one of the forerunners in having better medical treatment here in our community. And it's going to be focused on better application and execution of health services here in the city of Phoenix. Continuing to make Phoenix an area where we have strong life science, science medicine here in our community. And then last, the Spark area land acquisition. As many people know, in some communities, the land that is under us have been contaminated by a number of contaminants, and this will allow the city to remediate some of those areas, making for a cleaner and safer Phoenix. And then on the environmental and sustainability, one of the things we're going to do is, we believe by leading an example, we're asking Phoenicians to make changes so that we are using water and energy more efficient. And we're going to be making renovations to our city facilities so that we also are not wasteful in those areas. Also, heat resiliency, we know as we had almost 55 days of over 110 degrees. So we are also going to be investing in some heat resiliency, cooling centers, those types of things. And then lastly, making sure that we continue the electrification of our city vehicles. And then the last question is my personal favorite. It helps us enhance, preserve, and increase the supply of affordable housing in senior centers. Housing is one of the biggest needs right now in our city, and this will allow us to bring about 1,000 units of affordable housing online if this passes. We also will see the establishment of the Cesar Chavez Senior Center, and the McDowell Senior Center will get some renovations. And then we have some gap funding to entice more affordable housing or attainable housing development in our city, as well as we are providing some innovation in affordable housing, which are some plan and permanent process that allows for this project to move forward. The campaign has been endorsed by Mayor Kate Gallego, as well as a majority of the city council. All but one of our members submitted a letter in support of the bond initiative. And that means a lot, as I chair the outreach committee for this initiative. And it means a lot when you have so much support. Our coalition of supporters have been astonishing. It includes the Phoenix Fire United Phoenix Firefighters Local 493, LIUNA 717, the Arizona chapter of Associated General Contractors, Phoenix Community Alliance, the Greater Phoenix Leadership, Greater Phoenix Chamber, Black Chamber of Arizona, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Operation Blue Ribbon, Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association, and many others, including all of the many of the representatives in our Arizona legislature that represents districts that cover the city of Phoenix. So at this time, I feel like I have been blabbering quite a bit. I'll close with just simply saying that it's a mail election, so you won't necessarily, you can drop your ballot off at the designated voting centers, but for the most part, it will be a mail-in election. And you should get your ballots. I actually got my notification, I think yesterday, indicating that my ballot will be mailed out. We anticipate the ballots to be mailed out on October 11th. And our goal is just to make sure that people are informed about what the ballot's proposition stands for, and that we hopefully can gain their support. So at this time, I will stop sharing and I will open up to any questions.
Wow.
Any
Hey,
questions
that
for me?
is a great amount of information, so thank you very much. And so, from the NAACP's perspective, we are very interested in all the initiatives that will work for the greater good of everyone in the community, And so, are there any questions from members that are on the call? I see one from, one hand raised, Roy Dawson.
Thank you so much. And good afternoon. Thanks for information about GO. We were involved in the effort to get the Esteban Park funded and at the top of the list. And having been raised in South Phoenix, down on Broadway, as we call it, excuse me, I'm with the Arizona Center for African American Resources in the horse this morning. And so many of our challenges happens to be with housing and the elderly, as you so eloquently stated. We not only have them behind in technology, but many of the grandchildren are coming home and the great-grandchildren are coming home. We have huge challenges in the education system in South Phoenix and in your district. Can you talk a little bit about what your thoughts are about how we might address those collaboratively?
Your keyword was collaboratively. For me, I really believe that in order to address many of the issues that we are facing, specifically in the educational realm, is going to require private and public partnerships. I definitely believe in engaging our school districts as more as possible, but I also believe that we can get more of the private sector to help support as we see some interesting changes being done in the funding of our public schools specifically, that we're going to have to help them make up the difference through private partnerships. I definitely am a fan of increasing our. I want to focus not just on the traditional realms of pathways to success. Not everyone goes to college, but there are opportunities that you can provide through skill set and workforce development to our younger generation, as well as to our mid-generation who, with the increase in our inflationary concerns that we're seeing here in our city and then throughout the country, need to increase their earning capacity in order to take care of their families. And I think we can do some skill set development that way.
Thanks.
Thank you for that question.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that there was one opposition against the Go bond. Can you share like what council member that was and why? What was their opposition?
So I wouldn't say it was their opposition. He voted. He said he voted against it because he felt like it went too far. It was Council Member Jim Warren. He believed in part of the programs, but he did not feel all of them should be included in the projects. So.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Maisha Brown. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are any of the initiatives in the Gold Bond addressing any of the housing issues that we have in South Phoenix?
So the actually yes. So and not South Phoenix. It's more of the East Lake area. So the units that I were talking about that would be approved, the almost 1,000 additional units of affordable housing, that would go into the East Lake Edison Park area. We'll also see in terms of some changes. Like I said, there will be some gap funding to provide incentive for more additional affordable housing units. We've had one developer, I don't know if one developer has been focusing on the South Phoenix area. And this would allow us to provide more tools to be able to combine with the light tech credits and the like to be able to get additional units built. So they're not specifically going to be in South. We don't have anything that's specifically right now going to increase affordable units in South Phoenix, but it would provide us with greater tools to address the affordable housing issue in the city of Phoenix as it stands.
Okay, so Councilwoman, you a minute ago, I think you said this is a collaborative effort. It's, you know, in order for us to make change, we need to work collaboratively. What the folks who are on the call today, which we thank, we can draw a conclusion that they are here because they have some interest in hearing the information that you provided. And with that, how can they help? What can they do to support this if they feel that this is a good initiative for the community?
So there's a couple ways to definitely they can support. First, would ask for their support if they are in favor to vote yes on all 4 of the propositions, so that the investment can be made. And 2, I would also encourage you to share the information with your neighbors. This is not like this is not where you have, for example, a candidate election where you generally have a significant turnout, because the only thing on the ballot this time is bond initiatives. Many people tend not to return their ballots. So the goal is to make sure that the ballots do not stay on the kitchen table, but are instead returned. So one is just about simply, one, do your part if you believe in it, please vote for it. 2, encourage your neighbors and your friends and families to do the same. Let them know what it can do for our community and why it's important. It's been almost 20 years since we've done a bond initiative, and bond initiatives are how cities like Phoenix fund major capital improvement projects. Many capital improvement projects are not funded from general tax revenue. We have to go to the city and into the residents in order to do so. Honestly, the last time we did one, we did it at a lot higher at amount, and it caused it to, that's why we had such a long delay in being able to do another one. And we have a significant amount of projects that still need to be funded, but they say you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So these are the items that the committee and the community felt were the most important. There were 38 community meetings, both in person and virtual, that helped decide the items that are going to be funded by the Go Bond investment. So it's about sharing the word. There's also a website. If you're interested, you can go to the yesforphoenix.com and get signed up to get additional information if you would like to be more supportive of this as well.
That's great. Are there any other questions that anyone has?
Well, I have some thoughts
Oh, I welcome them. Go ahead.
in the form of questions. The Arizona Center for African American Resources has been focused on the education challenges of African Americans in Arizona. And so we have created all these programs for sort of early literacy. But what we find, and I'd like to know your thoughts on it, is that we don't have an ecosystem that is designed to focus on any of our problems with a constancy of purpose. And we don't seem to have the collaborative mindset. And so as thinking forward to your next election, which I think that obviously has to be on every politician's mind next time, are you comfortable that you have the framework in place that will give you some assurances that you'll be okay? And what do you need from us?
So what do I need? So am I confident I have the framework? I wouldn't say I'm confident. I feel like I have the resources. I know the people who know how to get this done. We can figure out how to get it done together. So what I would need from you is your thoughts, your ideas, your time, your talents, and your treasures in helping me be able to serve this community better. One of the things that I think makes me uniquely qualified for this is I'm willing to listen. I love collaboration. I don't think I know it all. I think I can benefit from the experience and the knowledge of others. So if you have some specific ideas, I would love to sit down and chat about how we can make them happen. So that's how you can best help me.
Okay, you'll hear from us.
All right, I hold you to it.
Trying to see, I was scanning to see if we had any other questions.
Dr. Harden, I
Yes.
have another brief comment for Councilwoman
Yes.
Washington.
Mhm.
I hear you talking about collaboration a lot, and one of the things that I'm involved in is education. Something I see in our community is that we have a lot of different organizations and people doing things when it comes to education, but I am challenged and look for your ideas and suggestions on how do we get everyone together so that people aren't doing a bunch of different things and spreading our resources thin. How do we come together and collaborate together with the 5 or 6 different initiatives that we have in different organizations around education and make it bigger and better than what our individual organizations and initiatives are doing?
Well, the first thought that popped into my head is I can help with, with your help and Mr. Dawson's help is let's convene a roundtable. Let's figure out what it is that the different organizations are doing and how can we make it work more cohesively together. And how can we figure out, how can we maximize our resources? Instead of maybe putting 500 in each bucket, we can put in 10 different buckets, we can put that 50,000 in one bucket and make it more effective with each organization taking responsibility for a certain outreach component of that initiative. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, but the challenge is like I guess getting people to the roundtable and then us to be able to work together.
Well, I think it's always helpful to come back to what is a common goal. And if the common goal of the different organizations is to actually make an impact, I think we can figure out how, and I think we have to figure out what it is that makes some organizations reluctant to partner with others. Is it the, what's the right word? Is it simply concerned about who gets the credit? Is it about fiscal control? And then figure out what those motivators are and see how we can come up with a common resolution. It's kind of difficult to give an answer in abstract without understanding what the underlying dividers are. But I think the first step in determining whether or not we could work together is to actually try and have a conversation together. And I think, yeah, we may not get 100% participation the first time around, but I think as you continue to do the outreach and continue to do the work and there's someone that's pushing it, I think you get a better result that way.
Thank you.
I was wondering, can you expand a little bit more about your ideas of how we tackle the huge problem of unsheltered individuals? What are some practical things that we can do to try to address that situation that exists?
So yeah, there's a couple things. It's a huge problem. One of them is definitely focusing on eviction prevention. How do we prevent individuals from becoming in that situation? The other thing that we need to, that I've been spending a lot of time actually at our talking to our representatives about is our allocation of Section 8 vouchers, which helps individuals that need help, is, in my opinion, woefully deficient. It does not meet the needs of our city. And one of the components that, to give a frame of example, the city of Phoenix, the 5th largest city in our country, receives a little under 7,500 vouchers. The 6th largest city, so another city that falls below us, Philadelphia, receives almost 28,000 vouchers. So that's a difference of 21,000 vouchers. And in trying to understand why that is such a huge divide, they explain the formula, there's calculations. And one of the things that stands out to me was the data that they use is not our 2020 census numbers. They are still using our 2020 census numbers. I'm sorry, 2010 census numbers. And the city of Phoenix has grown almost 15% since that time. So I've been asking our representatives to say, this is a priority. How can you help us get this to a more equitable state? So that's what we're trying to work on, because the voucher system is one of the ways that we're able to put people into housing. The city itself does not have sufficient housing on its own, but the city is making great strides. We have about 3,300 units that are in the pipeline of affordable housing that will go online shortly. So that's really positive. The other area that I've been focusing on is regarding our veterans. Seniors and veterans tend to be part of our growing population of unsheltered. One of the things that I've learned in the short time that I've been on the council is how it's similar to our Section 8 vouchers, but it's our VASH vouchers, which is for our veterans. Our VASH vouchers are not being utilized to 100% capacity because they're having administrative issues with them. The Department of Veteran Affairs is the group that is the entity that administers those. And there's a one that processes the application and all of that. And like many areas, the VA is understaffed and unable to process them as quickly as we would like. So what we have been trying to petition is for another way to do that, whether or not that is through using the Phoenix Housing Authority, which is a housing authority, to administer those VASH so our veterans are not on the street, but they can get access to those vouchers that we do have earmarked for them so that they can find a place. So those have been really the areas. And also the thing I've been advocating for is to allow for us to use the VASH vouchers for veterans that are facing eviction versus waiting until they're actually homeless, because that's how it's currently written. Like I said, we've been trying to focus on versus waiting until somebody's homeless, but allowing someone to use the vouchers before they end up in that homeless situation, because it's anticipated right now for every one person we get off of our streets and into a safe space, that 3 more people are entering into it because of just the way everything is going right now. So one of the things the city also did recently is we passed the ordinance that allows for accessory dwelling units, which allows, subject to the proper permitting, that individuals can create a casita in there if they have the space in their yard and use that as a place for individuals to for people to reside. So it's not, unfortunately, there isn't a one-stop solution to this. It takes a number of ways to change and to increase our housing supply. The goal is, if we increase our housing supply sufficiently, prices will come down and housing will become a little bit more attainable. So I wish I could say that we're going to solve it by snapping my fingers and saying that we're going to get tons of money from our federal government in order to make the difference. But in order to change that little formula that I was just telling you about for the Section 8 vouchers, it literally takes an act of Congress. And we are trying to get Congress to actually move to update that number. And I think what's helpful, I mean, one of my arguments is our veterans have served our country, yet we're not even giving them one of the basic benefits that they are entitled to right now because you have an administrative problem. And they're like, well, help us help you. So it's like so it's about how can we move that needle forward? So we're hopeful. I'm optimistic. I know it's not going to take just one conversation. I think it will continually require continual nudging. And the other issue that we need to do as a city, and that's probably going to be in a couple, I'll hope to be working on that shortly, is we need a dedicated funding source for some of our housing needs. And we do have the state has a state housing trust fund. And we are also trying to figure out how we as a city can create more resources for our personal affordable housing stock that allows for us to continue to do our maintenance and the acquisition of more units as our city continues to grow. Mr. Dawson, I saw your hand up.
Health and mental health is a key and critical issue for us. Whatever happened to that Blue Zone project in South Phoenix?
So the Blue Zone project, I spoke to, oh my goodness, from Equality, Tomas. It's still in the process. It's now finding the actual funding necessary to execute it. So I actually am going to be meeting with him shortly to see kind of get an update on where they're at and see what needs to be done. So no, mental health is definitely still in need, and we're trying to clear up that health inequity in the South Phoenix area.
I see a hand up from Pat. Is it Pat White?
Yes.
Yes. Please,
I think you just answered. Yes. I think you just answered my question. That was the updates on the Blue Zone. So
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, like I said, the Blue Zone is still in the works. We're just trying to currently trying to find additional funding for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we know that the city councilwoman is in DC, and we don't want to use up all of your time. We want to let you get back to the Congressional Black Caucus, but we do really appreciate you taking time, to share this information with us today. And so if there's any way that you think that we can, assist you or help you, please let us know, moving forward. And let me scan one more time. I don't think I see any other questions. But I think this has been very helpful, insightful. And I think the most important thing is what I would like to emphasize is what you said is about it's a collaboration. It's not just all one person who can make these things happen. Everybody, what seems most critical right now is for folks to make sure that they are making sure that they're telling people in their circles of influence and in their networks about the bond that's coming up, and encouraging people to educate themselves about the bond, so that what is that thing? Many hands make work light. So you can't get the word out just by yourself. So it's incumbent upon the rest of us to make sure that we are informing people. And it seems that if it's going to be a mail-in situation, that can escape people's attention real easily, So if you have any other closing comments for us, Councilwoman, and we thank you for your service so much, anything else you'd like to add to the conversation?
No, not really. I just wanted to say thank you again to the NAACP. Thank you, Dr. Harden, for allowing me to be here and just to speak with everyone. And thank you. I know you guys can be doing many other things on your Saturday, but thank you for coming out to listening to me for any questions. And I'm gonna drop my city email as well if there's any, because Mr. Dawson, I do want to follow up if there's any way we can chat further. And I forgot, I think it was Pat that also asked a question about collaboration in the education space. I'm definitely open to that. We can see how we can work together on this. So, but that is all. I thank you guys for your time. And Dr. Harden, if it's permissible from the NAACP, I would like to be able to just maybe as we get closer to the election, if there's something you can we have some community partners or organizations that are a partner with us. They're not taking a side, but simply saying we'll spread the information to our members. And if you're willing and if the NAACP will allow, I would definitely love to be able to share some of the information with you guys as well. So.
And yes, we have a yes to the ideal of let us help you share the information so that people know how this can be helpful for all of the citizens in the area, because we have a weekly listserv that we send out every Sunday. And so if you get information to us that nonpartisan, anything that's nonpartisan that deals with policies that help everyone, we are anxious to share with the community on our listserv. And once again, let me thank, I see several new faces, names, and we're glad that you have joined us today. This is the Maricopa County Branch NAACP. This is our method of getting information to the community that we think helps the community. We have our general meeting the fourth Saturday, and if you are not on our listserv, if you did not receive this information directly, Patrick, if they put their email in the chat, will you be able to capture it?
I'll drop the link where they can sign up.
Okay. As I was explaining, this is our way of updating members about what the Maricopa County branch is doing. Our listserv comes out weekly, and the link will be in the chat. If you'd like to be on our listserv, if you're not already on the listserv, it doesn't cost you anything to be on our listserv. It's just our way of keeping you informed and letting you know what we are doing at the Maricopa County Branch NAACP. And as I've heard in the last couple of days, I'm going to give you back 15 minutes of your time. We said that we were going to be on the call from 1 to 2, and it seems that I don't see anyone else with any other questions. And I will say thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hope to see you again the fourth Saturday in October. Our mission is to bring valuable information like this to you on a monthly basis. And enjoy Washington, D.C., Councilwoman Hodge. Hodge, Washington. I forget to put the Washington on the back end.
It's a mouthful, I know.
All right. So everyone have a great Saturday, and look forward to seeing you in October on our monthly call. Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.